So this doesn't just say it's pens. This says it's a hand lettering kit. I'm curious to see what that means. Hi everybody, today I am taking a look at the Enso, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Enso Watercolor Brush Pens by Pilot. More than one of you has asked if I would check these out, but I will pop up right here the comment that caught my eye that when I ordered these. So yes, thank you for suggesting them. This pack of watercolor brush pens is an 8-pack. It comes with 1 bold brush pen, that is the black, and then 7 colors in an extra fine brush set. And it says to let words and creativity flow with colorful Pilot Enso watercolor brush pens. So let's take a look at them. I ordered them on Amazon. They were $22.99 for the pack of 8, which is pricier than some of the other brush pens I've tried. They come in a plastic box, this set at least that I got, a little hang tag on it for display, and they had prime shipping. Now, according to the Pilot website, this also is supposed to come with a hand lettering guide. It looks like it's basically just on the inside of the cardboard insert that these pens come with, and I am having trouble getting it out. I would like to see it, but I'm having some issues here, so here we go. All right, so this is the hand lettering guide that comes with. It gives you 2 alphabets, a script alphabet and a Roman alphabet. It says here, the script is ideal for the extra fine brush pens. The Roman is ideal for the bold brush pens. And then a little kind of primer here on how to use brush pens, how to hold it, upstrokes, downstrokes, pretty basic. So if you are familiar with brush lettering, then pretty much everything on this little guide is going to be self-explanatory to you. But if you have never lettered before, it is a nice little primer. I guess by getting that primer, that's what defines this as a kit. I would expect, honestly, I guess if I was expecting some kind of a kit, I would hope for, paper or something. It almost feels like this is really fucking annoying. It's almost like they're just saying oh, we included this little extra bit of information on the insert, so let's just call it a kit. And it's not really a kit, but that doesn't mean that it's not helpful to have that. You guys have heard me in other videos where I talk about marketing of products and how I don't necessarily love when products call something else just to, or make a big deal out of something minor just to give you more reason to spend a pricier price rather than a less expensive price. I don't know. I'm sorry. I should not get all deep into this. So these are the pens. The barrels are different looking. So it looks like all of the extra fine colors are in this white kind of cream color barrel. And then this bold tipped pen is in a black barrel. So they look different. So we'll take them one by one. The black ink has Japanese writing on it, like Japanese symbols. There's a nice hardy cap with a pen clip that's pretty sturdy. It opens pretty satisfyingly, and the lid also goes on satisfyingly. It's a fairly short pen. The pen itself is pretty small in comparison to a Tombow dual brush pen. Even if you don't count the other tip, super small. In comparison to, say, a Kelly Creates pen with no cap on, smaller than that too. Although I will say, when you put the cap on the end, it does add some length, and it goes on so firmly that you're not gonna pop it off with your finger, so that's nice. You can see ink in here in this plastic nib area, and then here's the nice big nib, which looks remarkably similar to a Tombow nib. It's just smaller, so for comparison's sake. They have a similar look to them, they're just smaller than the other. So that's the barrel and the body of the black pen, and then for the colorful pens, you can see ink in this little window here, and then there's the butt and the cap all have the colors on them. All of the writing on here except for the word Pilot is in Japanese. The pen clip here is also nice and deep. It's a little bit more flimsy feeling than the pen clip on the black. The pen is also slightly bigger. Without the lid on, the black pen is shorter than the color pens. With the cap on the other end of the pen, it's still shorter but less shorter. Now the cap for the color pens snaps on really satisfyingly, comes off fairly easily but still snaps, and then again sticks on the end really nicely. And then the nib is quite small. I think it would even be smaller than the Kelly Creates nib. Smaller than that. Just a little tiny nib. So on doing a little bit of research on jet pens, this black pen in the Enso set is also referred to as the Pilot Pocket Brush Pen. The reason I was looking was because I wanted to see if these were refillable or not. They are not refillable. So they're also water-based ink, so they are not water resistant, but you can use them allegedly like watercolors. So let's test the different brush sizes. So here is the black bold tip, aka the pocket brush pen. This pen is almost ludicrously flexible. See these little lines here, right at the top of the downstroke? It's because of the way it like flexes down, like the tip sort of lays on the paper and then the rest of it lays down flat. The only way to try and get the smooth downstroke is to start with an upstroke. I'm not sure how I feel about this as a heavy-handed person. This is exceedingly flexible. Let's see, let's practice doing some lettering. Let's write. They say here that the Roman alphabet is best thing for this. So I'm gonna write my name in printing, uppercase, see how it works. Well, this is very, very hard for me to control. I'm very heavy-handed, bear that in mind. This is exceedingly flexible. This is like on the soft as fuck flexible end of the spectrum. Ink also like comes out really wet. So, you know, they don't say they're fast drying. Often brush pens aren't, but like I want to just like, look at that. That's how wet the ink comes out. It's very, very moist, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something to be aware of. I don't know if a lefty would find this at all friendly. Very flexible. Let's look at the color pens. So it looks like it comes with a black pen as well in the colors. And this is the extra fine brush pen. So I'm going to test this one out now. Well, if the pocket pen, the bold tip, was like the most flexible pen on the planet, this one is extremely stiff. Like it's like night and day. I mean, I have a lot more control over it. I always have a lot more control over stiffer pens than I do over looser pens, but it's just amusing to me, like the difference. Like this feels like almost crunchy. I have also noticed that the tip will start to bend in one direction, so you just have to flip the pen to get it going either way. I will say that they're both wet inks. They both smear quickly, but I will add that I feel like the bold pen is more opaque than the extra fine pen. That may just be because this one is so floppy and saturated, and so just is letting more ink out, but it's just something to point out. So let's see, let's try a different color than black. Let's try pink. Yeah, so I can just say right now from my first impressions that the extra fine tip, the color tips, like these little white barreled pens, way easier for me to control as somebody who's heavy-handed than the bold tipped pen. Now I'm going to get my bullet journal out. We're going to do some swatches. We're going to look at all the colors, and we're going to test to see how they perform on my bullet journal Scribbles That Matter paper, to see how they shadow, if they ghost. Okay, I wasn't trying to make this look ridiculous, but I really cannot control this pen. I'm just saying, I was not exaggerating. Let's put it that way. And the funny thing is that while this pen is just not something I want to use like ever, these ones I really like. The one problem I was kind of having with them is that they're so stiff. Sometimes it feels like it's hard to really get that good differentiation between the upstrokes and the downstrokes. Like sometimes they don't look that different, maybe because it's just so like hard to push down on it. I don't know. Like I was struggling with that a little bit, but these colors are so vibrant. I did a review last week of the Tombow Fude colors, and the thing, as much as they were more comfortable than these, let's put it that way. The Tombow Fude colors, way more comfortable than these pens for me to write with and easier to control, but these colors are brighter. And like these colors look the way I wanted the Tombow Fude colors to look for me. I am disappointed that there's no purple. That would have been really nice to have a purple to just add to this whole pile here. The colors match They match their caps. They match their caps almost perfectly. Like they all are exactly the color, the same saturation, everything, which is really nice. And they're, like I said, they're not that difficult to control. They're just maybe not quite so differentiated with the two different tip sizes. As for shadowing, the black bled through. I was expecting it to. It was very juicy. These guys don't shadow any more or any less than the Tombow Fooded Colors, other pens like that. So I would say that these white barreled, the extra fine ones, are planner safe. I would not use the black pen in your planner unless you're willing to glue pages together because it will bleed through. And the last thing I want to check here is just to kind of see how they play with water, how they react to water. So I've grabbed my just a handy water brush and I'm going to try a couple things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pen down and then I'm going to add water to it to see what happens. And then I'm going to put water down and then add the pen to it. And we'll kind of test that out. So we'll use a nice bright one. So the water absolutely does start to spread it out. I'm not like trying to pass judgment. I'm just trying to show you kind of what happens when you use water. The blending seems to work okay. I guess the way I'm looking at this is if you want to create like blended effects with your pens, the biggest difficulty is that these are so fine and so skinny that there's not a lot of room to add water. But if you want to add water and blend them, then you absolutely can. These do seem to blend okay. I feel like pen on paper first and then adding water seems to be the more successful way of blending these. Maybe, I mean, my water brush is old and the tip is kind of frayed, so maybe a more precise tipped brush or like a super fine tipped round brush would really help you with blending these together. I think that there's a lot of experimentation that can be done with these and I might do that in the future. But yeah, for now, I will say though that they do blend. That when you add water to them, it does activate really nicely. So overall, what do I think of these pens? Well, they are pricey compared to a lot of other brush pens, or at least in the same price range as some of the more expensive brush pens. The pack I have mixed feelings on. I think that for me at least, as a heavy-handed person who is not always great at controlling things, I find these pens to be ones I actually think I might want to use in my planner. The tip is a lot smaller than many of the other brushes I've tried. It's smaller than the Tombow Fude, it's smaller than the Kelly Creates and the Pentel. This is a very, very small, very precise brush pen, which I think would be really stellar if you're doing lettering in your planner or your bullet journal, especially if you're working on a smaller scale, which a lot of people do. For planner brush pens, I would actually suggest that these might be some of my favorites thus far. For actual like random lettering, I don't know if I gravitate towards these personally. I can control them, but I just have other ones I like better because they're just slightly more flexible and slightly just easier to work with. As for this pocket brush pen, the black bold one that comes with it, I'm not going to use this, or I might use this for filling in big areas, but I can't control it. Like the only other brush pen I've really had this much struggle controlling is the Pigma Micron brush pens. That's also hella flexible, but this one's fatter, so it makes more of a mess. Let me know in the comments if you've got brush pens or other pens you'd like me to take a look at. I will be doing both a brush pen Thunderdome where I compare them all together and a black fine liner Thunderdome. It probably is not going to be until after the holidays, but it will be coming, so I'd love to keep trying brush pens up until then, so let me know in the comments your suggestions. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.